All right. So I was very flattered to hear from the users group that they wanted to actually listen to me, and so I want to thank all you guys for your time up front. So I've been doing this a while, and we are Applied Autonomics. We are a small company. I work with a team of four. And what we specialize in is finding companies that we can scale through automation. So, and I think there may be a question coming up on that. This is an example. Let's see, Grandma, which is one of the nation's #1 resume companies, by the way. So, and what I want to do with this talk is kind of just run through the really high level things that it's some of it's what I talk about when we onboard new people, when we onboard customers. And I hope that I know this is kind of primitive in a way. I'm very open to questions at the end to let me know. And I'm attempting to do this in under 15 minutes. All right. We started out by defining business objectives. And I'm not saying let's eat grandma, but a lot of customers that we meet who go, oh, I think I need software and I think I need some kind of a system to help me out, don't really have not really made the full commit to writing down and describing their business objectives and balancing those out. The reason why that's important is because as you run a project and you do work for them at all levels in the project, one of the most important things to keep in your mind is, am I helping the company accomplish their objectives? Because if I'm not, I should not be doing whatever I'm doing. And this is alignment. And if I had to choose a superpower on the reason why our projects are successful so often and on time, it's because we align, which allows you to do the things that are important and to bail on stuff that isn't. We use Scrum. There's an older system you can use where you define critical success factors and processes and that kind of thing. But Scrum works just great for this, where we take the business objectives, drop them into the initiatives and epics, and then build our stories around how we accomplish those objectives. And then this allows you to typically will define the process. I included that here because I wanted to show you the resume process at Let's Eat Grandma. And this is, here we go. We've got a guy on staff who's just killer with these programs. But this is how our resume gets done, all the way into the follow-up email at the end. And if you look at the lanes here, you'll see that we have, we participate, Leg Up is the name of the SaaS that we built for Let's Eat Grandma. Leg Up participates equally with the client and the writer and the proofreader. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind as you go through these processes and projects, is to remember that you are part of a team. Our results were quite good when we did this. We 18 times, so right now, we 10 times the revenue in 18 months, which is a real thing. A lot of that, of course, was the management team and the hard work and effort of everybody inside the company. I'll show you some metrics. Okay, so what's underneath our architecture? We're lazy here. What we like to do is we like to find modules, and you'll see down at the bottom right-hand corner it says more. If we can find a module that just does it at minimum ship level, we'll do that, right? We'll so like the money module comes in handy. If we need to do tags, we'll just figure out tag it and how that fits in. So if we use modules, then we offload the support. And here's a thing we've learned, and I've seen this also in my prior lives at Pricewaterhouse and Deloitte and IBM, is that whatever your purchase price of your software, let's say you spend 100K on a software project, you can expect to spend 30K a year, 30% of it every year subsequent to just keep it and maintain it. And so once again, everything we hand off to a module, we don't maintain. It's a beautiful thing, except you guys may have heard me griping about Django 3.0 earlier today. Here are sort of the top 5 things that I encourage people to keep in mind. I know I do, and I kind of credit them greatly for our success. And the #1 is one that you will hear me quote all the time. I am incredibly surprised. And so for a lot of you Python guys that are starting out, your technical guys are mid-levels, and you're going, oh, what's going to happen when I get to the senior level, or I become a CTO, or I found become a founder, all things I encourage, is you'll find out the majority of your job is just to keep it all on the rails. Don't let it go crazy. And it's super interesting because as a CTO and part of an executive team, you wind up doing this a lot. One of my mentors gave me this phrase, and couldn't be truer, because CEOs are fantastic. They're visionary. They're out there doing stuff. CFOs always want to know what it costs, and your job as a CTO and as the technical team is just to keep everything on the rails, to make sure everything works, the customer can get served, the quality can be maintained, and the revenue can keep on flowing. How do we deliver on time? We deliver consistently boring stuff. It's just stuff that works. And if you look through our software, I'd love to say, oh, it's genius software and all that stuff. But at the bottom, it's just CRUD layers. We have a data warehouse defined. We do CRUD layers, create, read, update, and delete the information inside the data warehouse. It's really that simple in many cases. So after you get that set up and you get all that defined, you get all your models defined, then you want to layer on control and management after the data warehouse is defined. So be sure you build in hooks as you go. Don't try to do everything all at once. And then if you have an advanced algorithm like we have within this code set, we have AI, we have some cosine similarity search. We've got some things that we've pulled right out of text analysis that we're using. And you add those later, because one thing I can promise you is that when you start shipping software, it always changes, and the customer, once they touch the perfect software, they always change it. So expect that when you go in. And then change is hard. People don't like change. Sort of like Dobby, it burns us, it burns us. That wasn't Dobby, that was in Lord of the Rings, sorry. But the management team has to buy in. So you really need, as you're going through, even as a project engineer or as a project manager, kind of gut check every once in a while and say, is the client bought in? Are the other teams around me bought in? Because change is hard and you're going to need them. And I think there's one more in here that I did not put in, but I always keep in mind, which is we in technology can do really amazing things. Our part of what we do in technology is we enable and get out of the way. We facilitate. So I always hear people go, oh, if you automate something, you lay off people and you do all that. To me, that's just something miserable, because, for example, like at Let's Eat Grandma, when we automate, what we do is we actually increase throughput, and we make people, we enable people to do their secret sauce, to concentrate on what they do best. One of the questions that's always good to ask is, what's the repetitive thing you do every day that drives you nuts? We should have the software do that. So I can give you a little bit of a view of the system here. I do have a demo system. It's not up because I'm reconciling some kind of a module conflict, and there you go. Thank you, Django. And this is a view of the gross metrics here. We've processed, this project has been live, I think, 2 or 3 years, 7,000 clients, 44 total staff are working on it. And we have 28,000 documents that have been created using this process. We also track things like projects this month, projects this year, transactions per month. This is something we do for the executives so they can, and the team leads, so they know where they are business-wise. I did want to show the 29 days and the 17 days. These are an example of the advanced algorithm where we take a statistical analysis of the delivery time of the projects, and we develop the distribution, and then we publish the deviation and pick the average. Although I suspect the average is much less than that, because sometimes resumes, the client is in charge of the pacing, and some clients you don't hear from in 3 or 4 months, and that skews the data. I guess one day I should go back and do that. But on the left-hand side, you'll see that the home is I wish I could click on that and show you, is really where all the writers live, because it has all their processes there, their entries into the process. But we run operations on the back end here, where we do the accounting and all that. We have a project management module that's been actually moved into the applied autonomics application. We run our own business on the software, and then admin. So, you know, a good Django idea is don't name your admin path admin, name it something really long and strange, and then put that under admin so you can click on it and get there. Okay. I think that's it. What is coming up? I will be talking to Florin because in the next few days, we will be releasing the version of this software for the public. One of the questions that I've always had is, and one of the challenges I know people always face is, once you get a big, beautiful resume, what do you do next? So anybody who's looking for work and is looking for projects, is selling and everything, knows how this goes. You have to create documents that are specific for that opportunity. So what we're doing is we're surfacing things like our AI, we're surfacing things like our classification algorithms. We're putting a little process in there. You know, resumes, I don't know, you guys probably have more success than most because if you're here, you're actually probably smarter than most. But it takes around 206 resumes to land a job on average. So what we're going to do on this software is we're going to expose the tools and help everybody move that process along. And hopefully it'll be a really constructive and supportive community. We have some really good people working on this project. I'm very excited about them hitting the street. So as in terms of actually working on this project full time. So I think this will be really good. Thanks, Frank. Here's what I'll do. Like I said, I'll mention to Florin, we'll get an email out, and anybody in this group that wants to be a beta tester is welcome to join. I would love to hear from you guys. And I will say, I suspect folks here are going to have a little bit higher standards around software and functionality than most. So I'm sure your input would be fantastic to have. And that's it. What questions you guys have?
Could you reiterate on Scrum, this acronym, and expand on that part, please?
Scrum. Sorry, did I miss the R? No, it's Scrum. So Scrum is a well, everybody it's a form of project management. Wow, I'm going to date myself here. We started out in waterfall. Scrum
I just put out a link. Is this the same? That's we were.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Although I find the work over at GitHub better. GitHub has a really nice Scrum description around their projects because they have a Scrum tool. We actually built our own Scrum tool. It's not really hard because it's all, you know, you basically build your you build your one controller and you just change the object in it, replicate it 5 times. Yeah, but we find the stories and epics and initiatives all line up really, really well with the business objectives. It also gives us, we let the clients in and we want them to participate in both the development of the stories and tracking us as we go. And we use Kanban, so we don't do sprints. We find Kanban works better for us because Kanban is capacity based. And given our workforce makeup within applied autonomics, capacity is really a better way of doing things than time because our schedules are so crazy and we're so distributed.
Kanban.
Kanban, K-A-N-B-A-N. It's from Japan.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was Toyota. And it roughly Japanese would be something bin. So, but if you can, that also is covered at GitLab or sorry, GitHub, and they have good things there. You guys, if anybody has any questions, I will post my email and just zap me an email, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, and by the way, we've gone through several project iterations. Like I said, we've done the Big Bang, we've done Waterfall. At Price Waterhouse, I actually helped them write their project management process a couple of times because we did one for SAP R3 and we did one for just general software packages. So it's interesting that as you go through this career, at least for me, how much time I'm spending on the project side, because the project management side, because I think it really pays off on the productivity side. So
I have another question if you, before you go in. You said
absolutely,
something
Jacob.
about 206 resumes. I think this was the number to land the job. So where are the statistics coming from? Like, can you elaborate on this? This is interesting. And if you can give our audience here some tips, just because
Well,
some are looking.
I think as a guy who does in data, I will say that I do have biases around this, right? Those numbers come from industry surveys. You can generally, if you dig around on the internet, everybody has a different number, but operationally, it is about 200 resumes to get 5 interviews. And you got to get 5 interviews to get 1 job. We're assuming cold call. I was talking to several other people in the project business with other companies, and we're hiring almost everybody now through word of mouth, just like here, right? I'm going to reach out to you guys because I got some capacity. I'm happy to help out. Connections really work. But one of the things that I want to move this piece of software, the public side of this is, I've been really interested in scale-free networks, which can be, and I know some people are arguing otherwise, but basically, if you look at a small world network around an applicant, they can connect to other people and eventually find a job. We can model all of this as software, so why don't we? So I think it's going to be a really interesting time because, again, I have a lot of biases. I think the emergence of like Monster and Indeed have really increased, well, causation, correlation is not causation, causation is not correlation, et cetera. I think right now it's very challenging because I think it's like the dating app, right? It's very easy for the employer to swipe left instead of swiping right. So what we do, and most of these resumes, by the way, get cut, 90-something% get cut by software. And they ramped up the, during COVID, they ramped up the dimensions, and they made the dimensions tighter on the software analysis. And because of that, they're accepting less applications. But if you can run through, if you look at our software and the way we do it, we have a screen where we actually make sure that the terms in your resume match the terms on the job application, so that when those filters run, they do it. But remember, everybody, words are sparse information sets, so it's a real challenge. And resumes are a real beast to try to segment out correctly. I have some correspondence going on with Indeed right now on this, and it's just really it's not simple, and the systems are just bad. They're all bad. Employers hate them, applicants hate them, everybody hates them. We're all talking past each other, and the market incentives are all wrong. So our thought was, that we would do this from the applicant side. I've always been frustrated that Indeed and the rest of them are all paid for by the companies. So we're trying to figure out a revenue model that will sustain this. I don't think this is going to be a huge profit maker in the next Google or anything, but we want to build a business that is sustainable yet helps all these people. So I'm kind of in the give back side of my career.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I'm curious, what do you think about Jobscan.co? I'm wondering if you heard about that.
Yes,
them as a website.
you got them.
Yeah,
yeah,
they
we
like
got
do word count or phrase count, and I used them last time I was applying, and I think it was pretty good. Like, it's pretty simple. All they do is like count the words in the job listing and count the words in your resume or a cover letter.
Yes, there's a couple of ways to do that, and that's a really good question, Lily, because from my analysis and from what I know, and I'm not saying I have enough visibility into the algorithms on their side to know precisely, but it looks like most of these are using what's called a Boolean search, where they search through your words and they match the number of words and then count those. or they use like a real simplified bag of words approach where they count word frequencies and match those, but I don't think so. We found that if we use cosine similarity to do exactly what you're talking about, where we're matching the terms inside your resume to the terms in the application, that works really, really well because it is sensitive to order a bit and location of the words in the document. I will say, based on experience, that actually thinking about it and going through the process human-wise, right, stopping, taking a moment and considering this is a factor that you need to cover in your resume actually probably delivers a lot more than all of them. Resi AI also does this. There's several guys out there working on that. We have a predictive text model, and they're super noisy. I mean, you know, you adjust a few of the dimensions, and then you got another 30-minute run, and you know, you cut down one word or something. So it's a real challenge, but we all are getting software now and capacity and GPUs that we can use that are getting us closely there. But I strongly recommend those sites. Resi AI and all the rest of them are just fine. Cosine similarity is a data classification technique. It looks at the distance between the words and how they occur inside the document. As a Python person, you can Google it, and there's a lot of folks out there that have done an implementation. And you can also look inside existing libraries. I think SciPy has a good cosine similarity. And it's really fun to well, I like that stuff. But I strongly encourage anybody, when they hear a name like that or anything, go out there and grab some of these packages and work on them, because cosine similarity, I think, is like 3 lines, and you can really quickly write your own little Python program to do the test, and you do the same thing we're doing, or you know, when we get our site launch, you just come to ours. But it gives you a score, is what it does at the end, and it works well enough so that if they're doing a Bayesian search with filters and things like that, you get through that okay.
I think one thing that's like, sorry, one thing that could be useful, I was trying to I did like what do you call it, like web scraping of LinkedIn applications, right. And then I put it through Spacey and got the root of the word, because a lot of times, like, there are adjectives that has like ly, you know, or some like er or whatever, and then I try to maybe match it to my own resume, right. Before, but it's very computationally intensive. I'm curious what your thoughts are.
I love that thinking. Tokenization is important, and going to the roots, and there's several different ways you can do that. I think that's so if you're looking at let's say you were looking at your resume and you wanted to look at a bunch of job opportunities and do a classification there and sort them to figure out where you wanted, which ones were closest to you. Stemming is probably a good idea. I'm a little reluctant to say stemming's a great idea to actually tune your resume to a job site, because I think that everybody's using so much Boolean, where they just do a raw word search, that the ly matters, and it's very frustrating. But you know, it's something.
I think I was just trying to like match my word with their word to get it close enough, because it couldn't.
Yeah, and it's really, synonyms are something. So for I didn't mean to diverge into a huge resume talk, and we can do this later because we've got a lot of them we're looking at every day. But you know, the fundamentals are pretty good. You know, make sure your format's okay. Again, be sure to take down my email and send me a note that says, "Hey, I heard your talk. I'm really curious about this. Let me know." And there we go.
Okay, thanks.
I think the ly often matters. Yes.
So a slightly different subject and a bit of a shot in the dark, but I'm betting you have a particularly crazy story involving something that someone was doing manually and you automated.
Oh, he was always showing up. We're just
no, I'm saying
Well, I would love to say that I do have exciting stories. I think I prefer the mundane and the slow and steady and the consistent kinds of things. I guess I had one client. It was well, I have a I guess I have two, but okay. I will talk about one of them. I have one client. I won't even say which industry they're in, who invested a lot of money in what we do. We got them ready to go on the automation, and at the very end, they just could not get their people to. They literally could not get their people to adopt a tool to help them do their jobs better. So it's sort of a sad story of bad change management. But their outcome was, you know what, we're just going to sell the business.
Okay.
So I think the moral of the story is that this automation is really, really important. The other thing is, I guess a more positive note is that every time we do this, we see a jump in revenue between 3 times to 10 times what it was within a year. And I would love to say it's the software, but I think it's the process. It's getting everybody to define what they do and understand what they do, because you got to understand it to write it down. So there's a lot of, well, you say soft advantages a company gets when they go through this process. And so I think lots of times the value delivered by that is more than what we actually do. The process I'm referring to there is that when they have to go through and define, so in order to automate using your Python tools, you have to have measurable metrics, right? Everything's metrics based. And because you want to move to metrics-based management. And so when the process is, as you saw in the resume example, you start them at the very beginning, maybe customer contact, and you have them go through and you ask them, what's next? Oh, well, they talk to WooCard. Okay, fantastic. Then what happens? Well, then we send them an email thanking them for their purchase, and then we send another email over to the project team, and then our project manager starts allocating people to the project. Well, immediately, you know, my ears raise, and I'm like, wow, I could use an algorithm that does all that. So then I ask them, okay, for example, if you're going to allocate somebody to a project and the customers pay for it, what are the metrics you use to allocate those folks? And it's really interesting. I'm a data guy. So again, my bias is showing, but it's really interesting when they move from, oh, gee, I've been thinking, or I get this feeling, to making these metrics-based management decisions about, I'm going to put this person on this particular project because they're the best person for the job. This starts, there's a lot in trained, I don't want to get too far off into that, but there's actually biases that people have when they build teams and they work with each other and do all of that. And if you move to metrics, you remove the biases, and that has a tendency to increase the diversity and the success of your team. And I think those two things are super important for your projects that are better than most. So I hope I didn't go off the deep end.
Thank you.
Hey, I have a question if you don't mind me
Sure,
asking.
absolutely.
So the way I got my job as a software developer was, I actually was working at a junkyard and actually went and talked to the main boss. I've actually never had any good success with just filling out an a resume and submitting my application. I don't really,
Exactly.
yeah. So just kind of see if maybe you could kind of give me some advice, because I'm living here in Austin, Texas, and obviously there's a lot of great companies out here, but I mean, I basically suck at making resumes and filling out applications.
Yeah, well, I do too, if it's any consolation to you. I never think my resume is good enough, and it's always too wordy, and it's wrong. You may be in the same boat I am. I think I've just finally realized that I could use a resume writing company that's a good one, right? I know a lot of these writers, so I have a writer I use all the time. I quit writing my resume. I think that a lot of people can. I know people that write really great resumes because they're good writers. I also think that I discovered I had a lot of blind spots. So skill sets that I thought were not as good as they are were actually that good. And a good writer, a good resume writer will bring that out for you. So that resolves that. And then I'm trying to solve what happens afterwards with this next project, right? But I will say one of the best people we've ever hired at Applied Autonomics did exactly that. They're basically their opening letter said, I don't know very much. I learn quick and I'm happy to get to work. And it became very clear that this person was fearless. And having somebody who has common sense and who's fearless, taking reins of a project is beautiful, because they're unafraid to ask all the questions that need to be asked. And that was the other thing, tons of questions when I started talking to them. And that stood out right away. Now I know, like Indeed, I've been through their employment process before. They're very, very metrics based. So you take a test, you do this, and a lot of people are doing that. But it's really something. So yeah, I would encourage everybody to work your networks. And just like everything else in life that's the best for you, you never see it coming, and it's just a result of it's a numbers game at this point. The number of people you talk to, get your pitch right. It's like always be selling yourself when you see somebody, right? Ask them who they know, follow up. Don't ever, and again, personal bias, I've been ghosted. It's really strange. I've been in this for many decades now, but in the last, I guess, 5 or 10 years, 5 or 8 years, I've actually had candidates ghost me, right? And but I've had employers ghost me as well, right? Potential people that I want to talk to say, nah, you don't even hear anything from them, right? So you don't have any results. So on our side, I always make a point just to contact a person, let them know what we're doing. And it's so hard to tell somebody no, because I think everybody's great in their own way, and I'd love to hire every single person I see, but you have to make decisions. But yeah, I do encourage that. I think that's a great way to get out there and do that.
Hey, thanks. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, I'll get out of my way, because I think Nick's going to be a lot better than me at this.
Yeah, good questions. Really good information there. I had no idea. Like that kind of caught my attention too when you said this. Like, you have to go through like 200 applications or something to get maybe 5 interviews. My experience all these years, I always network, so it's always been through people that I know. I never had to send a resume out there.
Yeah.
Like in all these years.
Yeah, and moving to Austin is really tough. I know people, I have family members that move to Austin to look for work. Austin's hard, but I will say this, after being in Austin for most of my career, when you find people, you will build what I call a crew. There are a bunch of people you've worked with on different projects and different companies and everything like that. Every time you go to a business, and this is one of the things I mentor the high school kids on when they in their entrepreneur teams, is that every time you go to your next job and you find the 3 or 4 people, because you always see them, there's like a handful of people that are everywhere doing everything, who are just aces, and that's great. I mean, there's a role for everybody, but there's some that just really stand out. Meet them, take down their information, stay in touch with them, and then 10 years from now, when you've got this magic project, go find them, right? I got a whole list of people I want to go find. If somebody came to Applied Autonomics and said, dude, I'm ready, here's $5 million, go out and change the world, I know exactly who I'm going to get. It changes with each kind of project, right? But that's because somewhere midlife I learned that's really freaking important. So
yeah, it's kind of funny you mentioned so you're mentoring kids in high school to build their own businesses, or?
Yeah, there's we're out here in Steiner Ranch, and Vandergrift has a entrepreneurship program where they build entrepreneur teams and take them through the whole task. Nice. And like you, I used to be a Capital Factory, and that's one of the things I loved at Capital Factory is the staff always knew me because I was just walking around. Everybody's got, it's just inspiring to see all these great ideas. You know, I'm curious about everything to the point of getting in trouble. So it's really something to be able to interact with them. And we've lost that with the COVID, but it will come back. We're going to figure out different ways, and we're working on it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, David. This was awesome. Yeah, really appreciate it.
I'm going to say one more thing because I saw the mentoring high school kid. I've hired high school kids before. If you find an A star in high school in like one of the programs, pick them up, because I'm promising you, your job in tech and doing something programming and with adults is going to be a heck of a lot more fun for a lot of these guys than the Pizza Hut, right? Or the other job app things they have. So don't be, because I'll tell you, and some of you guys probably already know this, good team members take a long time to build. And starting, you know, I'm unafraid to take on anybody who's interested, who wants to engage and wants to learn. I'm there.
Yeah, and you learn a lot. Like you again, you go through the beginner's mind. Like when you go and you have these young people asking you questions, it brings you back to kind of where we should always be, like the beginner's mind all the time. Like, well, like see things in a new way. I love working with like young people all the time. It's just like it makes me realize that I still have a lot to learn.
All right, I'm shut up. Thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate this.
Well, thanks so much. That was awesome.
Yeah.